I'm noticing that there's a lot of traditional AI engineers that are coming into the crypto AI space. So I'm seeing this happen mostly within the crypto AI infrastructure side of stuff. So we're talking about like things like decentralized compute protocols or decentralized data protocols or coordinating protocols like Bittensor, etc. And in my opinion, if we as an industry want to be taken seriously and actually want to compete with Web 2 stuff, so some of the amazing stuff that we literally just spoke about, we need to be able to harness and attract AI and ML talent. I was just speaking about, if we drive the cost down of building cool products with AI, what's the point of, raising funds with crypto? Well, one answer might be to attract or incentivize some of the top best builders in Web 2 AI to come and help us kind of like solve some of our problems or build some net new products on the open source realm, right? So I think overall, this kind of like shift is really, really what we need to see, and it's pretty great. And I'm convinced that like kind of combining these cracked AI engineers with open source will lead to a much bigger 0-to-1 set of innovations within crypto than we're already seeing, right? We're already seeing things like decentralized training from like Noose Research and Prime Intellect. So I think that's super cool. The second observation that I made was, David, we've spoken about these agent launch pads quite a bit, right? We've spoken about AI16Z's launchpad, Virtual's launchpad, Arc launchpad.
Yeah.
But the truth is, the majority of these launchpads literally just do what they say in the name, launch, and launch specifically a token. And then you kind of have like this like agent, which is kind of similar to each other. You have different platforms that are taking certain approaches to try and make, up the bar of quality, but really you're still just launching a token, right? And it's on the individual team to kind of like pioneer and innovate an agent on themselves, right?
So the bear case about these like agent launch pads is it's actually just pumped.fun with a different
correct.
skin.
Correct. And it's just like, crypto's classic another token doesn't really do anything, right? Something that was really encouraging for me was I had a bunch of conversations with, a bunch of the popular teams that we've spoken about, but also like new teams that are building out different agent interfaces and launchpads. And basically the take is everyone now thinks that just having a launchpad that launches a token is terribly mid and terrible, and so that they must do much more, which is something that you and I have spoken about on this podcast before, which is I think they need to graduate to something like an app or services layer, and actually that's what teams have been quoting and talking about. I'm starting to see a shift, kind of building out this app store for agents. For those of you listening who are like, what the hell is he talking about? Think of, how either of us would navigate to the Google Play Store or Apple iOS's store and like select an app and then like engage with that app, right? What if an agent had the same kind of user experience, except it was just agent specific stuff, right? Like an agentic app or a service. And you might be asking, well, why would an agent need a specific service if it's coded in a particular way? Well, agents aren't going to be great at everything, right? The builders of these agents are going to be hyper-focused on a particular niche or problem that its creator wanted to solve. But it'll come a time where it'll need to engage in other services to fulfill its same goal or expand its set of goals, right? And so it'll need access to a range of different apps and services to be able to enable that. And I've kind of like had it fixed in my head as like this kind of like Zapier for agents. And thankfully, we're kind of like seeing this kind of trend come up. And I think that's super interesting because in my opinion, that's actually where kind of like we're going to start seeing the first proper generation of sustainable revenue within some of these within some of these agent platforms. So I think Virtual's demoed a version of this on Base last week where it was kind of like tapping in on their agent commerce protocol. But I think we're going to see, much more of these, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty resonant with what my big takeaways were from ETH Denver. Largely that there's a lot of diversity in the AI space. Everyone kind of has their... It's the same thing with crypto. There's like 18 different ways to be interested in crypto, and there's that many and maybe more ways to be interested in the AI sector of crypto. And I think everyone, it kind of just feels like DeFi before DeFi summer, where everyone understands that there's something real here. We are generally feeling around in the dark because we don't know how or what, but there's general patterns of building going off in all like some very deep, crazy, far out experiments without totally knowing exactly what's sticking, but an understanding that there's something very, very real here. But you guys, I just kind of got a kind of a high level overview because I wasn't only doing AI things. I think you were mostly doing AI things. So I think you also have some bad takes or some bad updates about the AI side of things, or at least some sobering ones.
Well,
download us.
Yeah, I just want us to be kind of like pragmatic about things. And, like I'm an eternal optimist. So I kind of want to see where these things are going to go and have a, optimistic outlook on all these things. But I think it's also important to kind of like ground ourselves in reality and talk about things that we've maybe spoken about or like envisioned in the future that I think might be overhyped currently in the short term. And we need to kind of like refocus. So on some of the kind of like the bad stuff that I saw or that I heard, my take is I think there's too much focus on DeFi AI, David. So this is the concept of either creating these like AI agents that can specifically focus on resolving issues or problems within the DeFi ecosystem. So things like an agent that could like trade autonomously for you, or agents that can kind of like manage a bunch of DeFi functions. This isn't necessarily a bad thing that there's too much focus on this industry, but I think the majority are kind of like building or focusing on the same thing. They're like, everyone's like, hey, we got like ChatGPT for DeFi, or we've got like this agent that's hypothetically paper trading hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of tokens. But I'm like, well, it's not actually real and in prod. So like, does any of this actually mean anything? Does your architecture actually work? And so I think where people need to kind of refocus on, and it's boring, but it's relevant, is, focus on the architecture of the agents that you're building. Because in my opinion, all the APIs that will allow your agent to trade, create a wallet, and do whatever autonomously already exists. But the reason why we haven't seen a lot of these agents in production is because their architecture sucks, right? So I think people need to focus on things like, memory design and database querying, all the boring stuff, which is going to make your agent actually functional and perform really well. The second bad or hot take that I have is I think 90% of the agent frameworks, David, don't actually offer anything unique. They're all kind of doing the same thing. They're all integrating the same APIs. They're all trying to build like a no-code platform. And
they're
like
all converging to the same product.
Exactly. And in this world of like slot bots, I'm like, well, how are we going to differentiate, or how are you going to differentiate any of your applications or any of your agents? Why would I want to use something that like looks like 99% of the other stuff that's out there, right? So in my opinion, I think the moat is going to come from figuring out a way to build very specific niche custom design agents that solve an actual problem. Shock, David, right? We need to focus on solving an actual problem before you can reach product market fit, right? And that kind of leads me to my final kind of bad take, which is I think around like 70% of these projects rather are focused too much on raising money or the monetary side of things versus the actual product side, which is not unfamiliar within the crypto world, where we see a lot of people kind of raise a hell of a lot of money and then become unmotivated. I think the silver lining here is that this means that the people that are actually building something really valuable and hyper focused on that stand out. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of like weight it on like the good and the bad.
Yeah, I think that is just regular par for the course for the trials of the crypto industry. This just seems like this is what crypto is, and this is the microcosm of that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. One thing about DeFi, AI DeFi, is like, I think like DeFi and agents, I think people are figuring out how these particles collide, and we don't really know. The idea of like a yield optimizer agent, I think, is intuitive to think about. But when you actually open it up, it actually seems like way harder than it actually is. And that makes you actually question whether AI even belongs in that like niche, in that specific product. Like, does an AI agent actually help optimize yield?
Right.
Is that actually a thing that agents do? And maybe it's not. Maybe agents are useful in like many, many, many other ways, but just not that one. Something that we've talked about last week and the week prior is Billy B. And this is the agent that has some pool of real money and it's making real bets on Polymarket.
Yep.
That to me, I think that's DeFi, AI DeFi. Like Polymarket, I mean, it's like more of a centralized app, but like, whatever, like USDC tokens on side of a prediction market, close enough to actually truly crypto.
And it's a non-Web3 specific thing, right? Like if you're a sports bettor and you come across this like personable agent that's like making money, you're kind of like, well, this is kind of cool. I wouldn't mind engaging with this. I understand the concept.
Yeah. And like in theory here, like Billy, I don't know if you can actually give Billy your money, but you can buy the Billy token. So like kind of the same. TBD on how that actually works out. But an agent arbitraging on Polymarket, that feels like DeFi AI, right? What's your take on that?
Yeah, it does. It's just, how you want to market it. I would market it like probably not as DeFi AI. I would say that like, hey, this is a new consumer application that onboards people that aren't necessarily crypto native or arguably need to even know that there's crypto being used in the background. And I think so. I actually caught up with the Billy Betts team out in East Denver, David. And to your point on whether it'll allow people to actually, bet in conjunction with Billy. And the answer is yes. It's just on their roadmap and something that they're going to be releasing or announcing pretty soon. So, I'm pretty excited to kind of like see how all of this pans out.